So bizarre. Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdist Dave, and today I'm joined by Chris Haskins. And my apologize for running a little late. I thought we were live, but apparently we were not.
We've been talking for 5 minutes thinking that we were live this whole time.
Like, where is everybody?
Well, for us at Nord, it's not a live stream unless something goes wrong. One of our live streams, I had us accidentally muted for several minutes until someone in the chat was like, can everyone else hear them? Because I can't hear them at all. I went, no, it was so funny. We did so many funny things before. Anyway, it's no big deal.
Yeah. I've done probably like close to 500 of these. So yeah.
It's me. It's not you. It's me.
Oh, it's you.
Yeah.
Well, my point is, we still make mistakes still happen after doing a lot of these, and I imagine they will continue to happen.
Yeah.
I think
is
sometimes
there a chat somewhere I should be looking at?
Yeah, over on the watch page you can find a chat. Just mute that tab.
Okay, I'll mute that tab.
Or you'll have to listen to us.
It with like a few second delay.
Yeah,
that would be very distracting.
Yeah. So, sometimes when I get people on here that I get overly comfortable with, I think I forget to do things because I'm just like hanging out with a friend.
Yeah.
Instead of I should be doing, I don't know, work, what passes it for work for us. But yeah, so Chris is with Nord Games. You want to tell us about Nord Games?
So Nord Games is a third-party publisher of D&D material. We publish books and card decks, basically accessories to make your D&D experience, better, smoother, faster, stronger, all those different ways you can improve your game. We've been very, very fortunate to have a very dedicated fan base, and it's just growing more and more. So we just finished up a Kickstarter for Dangerous Destinations. That was a follow-up to our Spectacular Settlements book from a couple of years ago, and it was wildly successful. It was our most funded project to date, and we had the most backers to date as well. So, man, it was crazy. It was a 30-day campaign, but it just flew by. And we had regular live streams, which is a new thing for us. It was just so much fun to engage with everybody. Because of all of our dedicated fans, we're actually looking at getting an office space. So we're going to be, moving out of the extremely cold warehouse and getting creature comforts like air conditioning and heating and all that stuff. So it's looking pretty cool. Can't wait to give everyone a tour and start doing live streams, maybe even live streaming our games.
Are you going to do a stream tour?
Yeah, why not? It'd be fun. So let's see, Brian Smith, how many times has Chris been on? I feel like we should get a gold jacket at this point, or he should get a gold jacket at this point. I don't know. How many times have I been on?
It's been a few times.
Yeah.
This time, Chris was nice enough to jump on last minute because we were supposed to have Justice Armand on, but he had something come up last minute and actually had to travel, quite a distance. So hopefully everything works out with that. That's okay, and he'll be on at another time. But Chris was nice enough to step in last minute, so that was very kind of you.
Fortunately, my morning was fairly free, so it worked out totally fine. So always happy to jump in and talk gaming. It's like one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, and congratulations on the last Kickstarter. You guys, now that hit it out of the park, and also like that series is kind of system agnostic, right? That's not really designed specifically D&D.
Yeah, that one is going to be for any fantasy role-playing game. So whatever you're playing, because we realized originally when we launched Settlements, we thought it would be a 5th edition product because we were going to include non-player characters in there with stat blocks and stuff. And then we realized as we were developing it, there was no reason to include anything about that that character as far as a stat block. All we had to do was really just mention that they would be, have a proficiency in this or be good at that. And it would be more of a universal book, useful for all different tabletop RPGs, in the fantasy world. So it just sort of became system agnostic as we were in development. And then Dangerous Destinations, the same thing. There was no reason to include any specifics about rules and stat blocks, because leaving that stuff out, the book becomes a much more universally applicable product. So those who are playing Pathfinder, or any version of D&D, or any of the D&D clones out there, it all works perfectly fine.
Cool. Now you also guys have a bunch of like NPC products anyway, right? So like, if people wanted like the 5th edition stats, they could just pair up those products.
Totally,
easily.
or find something in the monster manual or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Doug loves the skullduggery stuff.
Yeah,
he did like a whole series on our website about using that stuff to run like a Mandalorian style game from there.
Yeah.
So what do you guys have going on now? I mean, imagine, winding down from a big Kickstarter. I know how that can be. That's when the real work begins.
Well, fortunately, Andrew Gertzen, he's in charge of our design and the bulk of the writing and planning and stuff for each one of the titles. He really had Dangerous Destinations pretty well established. The manuscript was very far along, and Ralph Stickley already had a lot of the artwork done for this project. And obviously stretch goals unlocked a lot more artwork. So that's the bulk of the work that's happening right now. But also Andrew and Josh Perry, they're doing the bulk of the writing that was unlocked through stretch goals. So really what we're tackling now is that stuff that was all created because of the backers' enthusiasm. We ended up passing all of our stretch goals in the first 24 hours of the campaign. So we funded in, I think, 15 minutes, and then accomplished every single stretch goal within the first 24 hours, which was just bananas. So that turned the book from probably a 200-page book into a 400-page book, because of all the pre-generated content that we created and all the antagonists that we added to the book. It really turned it into a whole different creature, and it was very exciting to see the enthusiasm from everybody.
Yeah, so we've been working with you guys. I mean, we kind of switched, kind of late for fulfillment with our Kickstarter with you guys, because we were having some problems and issues with fulfillment, especially international. And
it's a challenge. It's fulfilling physical product is a challenge, especially if that's not your primary gig. There's a lot of little things that you're just not aware of, because it's not common knowledge, unfortunately.
So Nord came in like superheroes, and to the rescue. And we're super happy to be partnered with you guys, and it's making life a lot easier. And also your staff is really professional and great to work with. It makes things so much easier.
Well, we appreciate that. Bear has everything locked down as far as the warehousing and the fulfillment, and coordinating with all of our fulfillment partners across the world. We've got big news coming out pretty soon about a potential game changer for Nord as far as fulfillment here in the States and Canada. So, North America in general. So stay tuned for that. If you're part of our newsletter or you're a fan of ours, we've got some pretty big news coming out soon. So excited. I can't tell you all the details right now, cliffhanger, but it's very exciting for me as a business person, and just looking at the opportunity that has been presented to us.
You're also doing fulfillment for some other companies people might recognize the names of.
Loresmith, Kickstarter fulfillment, and as well as fulfilling for their website orders. They're also on our marketplace, as are you guys on our marketplace. So we've got pallet upon pallet of Loresmith stuff sitting over there, next year stuff. We have Kobold Press on board. We do fulfillment for Bard Games. We do fulfillment for Top Secret Toys. We just a lot of different companies out there use us for their fulfillment, and it seems like more and more are coming on board all the time. So this is really something that we started out with Loresmith acting as their US warehouse and fulfiller, which worked out well for them because they're in the Netherlands. They don't have a presence here in the US, but the majority of their sales are here in the US because of the D&D market is biggest here. So we formed that partnership a couple of years ago with them, and it just sort of, it worked out really well. So it just made sense to do it for other people if there's a benefit there for that publisher. One of the things I told you and I tell everybody is, even if there's the better solution out there that I know of, I usually point people in that direction. Maybe the majority of their customers are in a different country. Well, we'll connect them with that fulfiller in that country instead. So because we'd rather be a problem solver than someone who just tries to get all the business, even if it's detrimental to that small publisher. Or in the case of like Kobold, just making alliances with other publishers who are comparable to Nord as far as size and number of titles and stuff like that, just to enhance what they have going, so offer them other avenues of sale.
The I want to say, as someone that does third party publishing, not on the scale that you guys do, but like the scariest thing is always like, what do you do if the company that you're third party publishing changes, right? Where do you move to? Where do you go to? So it sounds like fulfillment is it's kind of like a divestment from, being all in on just like D&D.
Well, okay. Yeah. So part of it was diversifying, and we already have the infrastructure set up. We have all of the equipment necessary and the labor necessary to fill our own Kickstarters and our own daily orders. So it made sense to offer that to other people who don't have a warehouse, don't have the labor, don't have the expertise. And it really becomes a no-brainer for a lot of people. They go, well, yeah, if I can ship my stuff to a warehouse that I don't have to pay for, that has staff, that has the equipment and the know-how to get this fulfilled to the end user, and that company can get me introduced to distributors and retailers and their own customers, then like it's a no-brainer. So I totally get the value there. And it's something that I really wish that Nord had early on when we started, but it just didn't exist at that point in time.
Well, I mean, in any business, right? It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you can identify and solve problems and help people, you're setting yourself up for success. And even like, drilling down to RPGs and gaming products, it's always the ones that are more successful are the ones that solve problems. And Nord's been really good about that. Like one of your early projects that did really well was Traps and Treachery, because no one had put that product out yet. No one was solving that problem for GMs. And I know plenty of people that are like, oh, cool, traps. And then they saw your stretch goal was to include puzzles, right? And that really got people going, because that's the spot where I feel like GMs struggle a lot of times. Yeah. Especially like in this era of gaming, it used to be such a intrinsic part of the game, and it kind of went away, and now it's kind of coming back somewhat.
Well, so the thing that we wanted to tackle with traps was, how do you make something that's very easy to plop down there in your dungeon, but you could put in many different places. And I'm so proud of this one table. And this is, I tell people the scene from Back to the Future when the doc says, I slipped and fell and hit my head, and then I saw the flux capacitor. Yeah. This is what I saw.
That's your flux capacitor?
This is my flux capacitor. This is my flux capacitor. And for anybody who can't see, basically it is a massive table where you can roll on to get mundane triggers, mundane effects, as in non-magical, ambiguous meaning magical or non-magical, and then magical. So with 2 rolls, you can generate a trap that has a logical trigger and a logical effect to it. But not only does it offer you this D100 with 50 different outcomes, but also you could say, I want just a mundane trigger and a mundane effect. So just roll a d20 in this one section. Or you want it to be magical, or you want a mundane trigger and a magical effect. So these, if they're separated in such a way that you could get that granular if you wanted to, and then the rest of this chapter is each one of those outcomes fully explained. So that is my flux capacitor.
So I know you're like super busy with being an RPG mogul now. Do you get time to play?
Well, we had a stream. It was a virtual stream. I mean, COVID has definitely had an effect. Normally, I would run multiple games at all the cons. I mean, we hung out last Gamehole Con.
Yes.
Excuse me, 2019, because there wasn't a 2020 Gamehole Con. But
you
we
can say
hung
last.
out.
We're just gonna pretend 2020 just didn't happen.
It didn't happen. It was a wrinkle in time. But yeah, normally my gaming is I run multiple games at each one of the cons. And because there's a con every month, 2 per month, that kind of thing, that satisfies my need to game usually. And because we're so busy here at the office, we don't usually get a chance to play an awful lot. Maybe we'll play a little game at lunchtime and that kind of thing. But with things being the way that they are, it's pretty much just 2 of us in the office right now, and we're all socially distant and all that stuff. So basically, we haven't had a lot of time to play, but we did get a chance to play on our Kickstarter countdown. So when our project ended about 2 weeks ago, it was 2 weeks ago today, actually, we got a chance to everybody at Nord get together and play a virtual game, which was so much fun. So I do get the chance to play now and then, and we're actually planning another game. I think Josh Perry is going to be DMing for us on the next one. We're just planning out when that's going to be. We're going to live stream it for everybody too. So and then another chance to show off some of our products.
So Brian has a question. It really feels like streaming D&D is a growing part of the hobby. Have you seen any interesting products that addresses unique aspects of D&D that are highlighted by streaming?
So I think that the best thing you can do if you're going to stream is have a solid platform for streaming. We were using Shard tabletop, and that was a lot of fun because it's very light. I have used systems like Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds and stuff in the past, and they are fantastic, but pretty heavy as far as I'm concerned. Like, there's a lot to learn, whereas Shard was very, very light and easy to create characters, easy to create monsters, either pull monsters from the SRD or create custom monsters, pretty easy and straightforward. I think the biggest challenge most of us will have is learning a new virtual system. If you're talking streaming, virtually, if you're talking streaming, like all of us get together and actually play in real life with cameras and stuff, I think the biggest challenge is getting a good studio set up to where anybody watching is getting what they need at any given time. So you need a camera for, let's say, the board. If there's miniatures in play, you need a camera for each one of the players. That I think that Quest and Chaos does this best, and I've seen their studio because I've actually been on their show. It's a fantastic way of aiming the cameras in 2 different directions and having your players sort of in a V format or formation, and then the dungeon masters on the other side, sort of kitty corner to them, and so everyone can see each other and everyone can see the board. And it's really, I think, the best layout. But getting to that point, that's an awful lot of investment to get everyone mic'd up, to get all the cameras on everybody. You can get away with having 1 camera for 2 people, if you've got, or maybe even 3 people, if you've got 3 to a side of the table. I think that's the biggest challenge for the actual like in-person streaming. So lot of infrastructure you got to get set up.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like, I've talked about this with people that are streamers, but I'm curious to get your feedback as someone who is a producer, a third publisher, produces content. So, like, people are trying so hard to make this a profession and career, streaming, but at the end of the day, like, I hate to be the guy, but I am the guy that always is like poo-pooing on it as a profession, as a business model, because the numbers don't work out, right? Like we ran Saver Dice and it was fairly successful. Um, and we would put a lot of money on that game from sponsorship, and that's how we were able to pay our our cast, right? And even what we were paying them
Yeah.
wasn't very good, right? It was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
here's minimum wage, slightly better, but
You do
but
get to play games though.
you do get to play. You do get to play
That
games,
doesn't
right?
diminish. That doesn't diminish their abilities or anything like that.
Yeah,
But
their
still,
abilities, the time investment, and like that stream would produce like we'd get 100 people watching, and that's really good for a live stream game. And at the end of the day, though, if you're going to sponsors, and one of the reasons why I kind of bowed out and wanted it to end was I didn't feel like we were doing a great job for our sponsors, right?
gotcha. Yeah. How much
'Cause-
how much in the way of revenue and exposure can you get to those sponsors? Because you do feel as though if you're going to be collecting money from people to advertise for them and to have that sponsored plug, you want to make sure that it's productive for them.
Yeah, and also it's a form of content that like is a huge investment from the audience, and it's very competitive now, so it's hard. And unfortunately, like you see a lot of people on Twitter, they they have a problem separating the value of the person from the value of the product, right? And at the end of the day, if you're streaming to be consumed by an audience, it's a product, and while you can spend more on that product than it's actually worth very easily, right? And I think that sums up most streams because they'll never generate that revenue that would be required to fund it, right? Like I look at like if you got 5 people playing a game and you wanted to pay them, you know, poverty wages for the year, right? 30 grand a year. That's $150,000 you have to produce a year without any extra costs. That's without buying art, paying for Zoom, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm just like, I just don't see the numbers ever panning out.
Well, I think that if you're a Critical Role or something, then they would.
Oh yeah, but Critical Role, so it gets like 30,000 people watching.
But that's sort of the thing is,
yeah,
there is a threshold. I think that if I can try to compare it to how Nord has grown, there is a point at which distribution aren't interested in you because you're not popular enough. And then once you become popular enough, then they're interested in you. But there's a weird catch-22 where if only they would pick up your product and distribute it, then you would become popular enough. So it's sort of the same situation.
Wait a minute. I understand this, and then everyone will understand it, right? You need a car to get a job, but you need the job to get a car.
Well, it's a weird catch-22 for sure, because in streaming, it seems like you need to have a certain popularity and a certain viewer base before you can start to make it profitable as a business venture. But you need that money to be able to pay the people to be able to make it entertaining enough to get the customer, the viewer base.
Yeah.
So it's a very weird thing where maybe you just need to get some investment money in there before it really starts to turn into something that is profitable. I don't know. It's not something that we're really focused on, other than us putting out streams just to be connecting with our fan base. I think that's the only reason that we're doing it, because it also gets us energized and gets us, because we not being able to see people for so long has been detrimental to us as gamers and us as creators. So being able to run live streams on a regular basis, because we're doing it every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Nord Games YouTube channel, Facebook, and Twitch, we've been able to really energize ourselves and get that back and forth with our fans, and that's been a lot of fun, where normally we'd only be getting that at the conventions. But like I said, we usually go to a lot of conventions every year. So but yeah, times have changed for sure. And I don't think that Nord is looking into streaming as a way of generating revenue so much as it's just connecting with the fan base, and somewhere or another their interest in our product may be peaked, and they'll tell friends about it. They'll because we've now got this presence and this backlog of videos, people can go back and check us out and become customers, hopefully, and fans of ours. So I think that's the main reason that we're doing it, and it's not really a standalone business venture on its own.
Yeah, and also there's like a huge difference between like doing short form content and long form content. And that's what a stream is, like 2 to 4 hours. That's a huge investment of time for people. It's why I don't like watching stream games, is because there's so much time involved in it.
I think that the one game, the one live game that I can say I will watch and enjoy consistently is the Harmon Quest format. But that's a huge investment of, the studio, the audience, the animation. That is huge, because they're playing, for a couple of hours, and they're taking just the little itty bitty tidbits that were the funniest moments, and then they're animating those, and they're making something that I believe is very entertaining. But that's great for the rest of us because it's getting more people interested in our hobby, and the more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned. I love seeing new players who are brand new and have no idea what they're doing, but they sit down at my table at a convention, and 3 hours later they walk away with an incredible story. So I love seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, and anything that brings people to the hobby is awesome. Like we used to review the second campaign of Critical Role, and then we had made a decision not to. Like, Ted's a huge Critical Role fan, and he watches all the gameplays. But for me, I was like, this is like 2 hours of amazing content stretched over four, because that's to me what a D&D game is, right? Like,
yeah,
they're fun to play. Like, it's like
yeah.
wiffle ball. Go out back and play wiffle ball. It's fun, but I wouldn't really want to watch my friends play it.
Yeah, I think that it's a whole lot better when you're in it. Although I will say that I have been in the same room as a D&D game going on that was being run very well, and all the players involved were just top notch. It wasn't being streamed or anything. It was just Stefan Picorni's game at North Texas, the North Texas Game Convention, or RPG convention, and I was just there watching because his boardroom has a lounge and stuff. So I was being entertained just by all the shenanigans going on. But you're right; it's not something that is well suited for filming and watching, unless, like I say, a Harmon Quest format where things are condensed and animated. I think that makes it much more entertaining. Brian Smith says streaming in place of advertising / networking, basically. Yeah, maybe you could look at it that way. I think that it's mostly so that fans can actually see us and see that we're like real people and real nerds, and what we're contributing to the community is our passion. I think that that's really good for people to see. So but we also do at Nord, we also do a lot of advertising. We do a lot of just community outreach and stuff. So it's not really trying to supplement that. It's just sort of on top of that, on top of the advertising we already do.
So Chris wants to know, do you have a guess as how many live stream viewers a live stream game would need to break even? 1,000, 5,000?
I've got no idea. Really, I think that the way that live streaming makes money is through sponsorships. So I have no idea how profitable that live stream might be. So let's say, just theoretically, you have a live streamer who could generate $100,000 in sales for their sponsor through one ad. Well, and that's, hey, we're using Nord Games dice or Nord Games treacherous traps in this session. How many people actually go? Let's say it's $100,000 in sales. Well, what should that streamer be charging for that 1 minute plug of that product? $10,000. I don't know. So if that $10,000 is what you can charge to and justify charging that amount of money, then yeah, you should. But does that pay all of your people for enough time? I don't know. I have no idea. It's almost like the more money you invest into the infrastructure to make your stream awesome, the animation in the case of Harmon Quest and stuff, that's expensive stuff. But are they profitable? I hope so. I have no doubt that a company like Critical Role has their stuff figured out to where they can charge enough to their sponsors and justify that amount because of the sales that will be generated. I don't know all those numbers, unfortunately.
I've heard the number 20 grand thrown around for like a Critical Role spot.
Sure. I have no idea.
I don't know if that's accurate or not. But yeah. So you essentially you need a lot of people watching the thing to generate eyeballs. And also too, you get at this weird thing. It's like impressions versus clicks versus conversions, right?
Yeah, conversions is the real key.
As everyone's eyes in the watching right now is glazed over.
Sorry, anybody who's not familiar with me and my history is I am a marketing and sales guy. So and I've been a D&D fan and player for 20 something years now. So I just sort of put the two together in order to create Nord Games and make it what it is today. So I'm always looking at that kind of thing. What sort of advertising should I invest in that's going to pay off? And it's gambling. It's essentially gambling. I have a theory that this is going to work out. I put that money in there and it either does or doesn't. Yeah. Sometimes it does in fantastic numbers. Sometimes it doesn't equally fantastically. Like it just totally flops and you end up with a negative return on investment, which really is a bummer.
Well, it's not, Vegas or stock market level gambling, but I feel like there's more science to it than those two.
There's a bit more science to it, but it's I think on the same vein of being really good at blackjack and really good at weighing the odds and saying, okay, I can see what's down on the table right now. My chances of getting what I need to win are this and this and this. So you do the same thing when you're choosing where you're going to be advertising, choosing what format and how you're going to do it. I think that when it comes to streaming for Nord, again, it's just about connecting with the community. It's not really meant to, replace marketing and marketing through things like Google, things like Facebook, email campaigns, that kind of thing. It's not meant to replace that. It's meant to add to it and also to just let our fans know who we are, introduce us to new people, and to remind our fans who we are individually.
Yeah, it's fan service, customer service. Putting faces behind the books and making it a bit more personal, which I think people appreciate. And also, like, these games used to be very social and connecting, and with the internet, it's lost a little bit of that. So I think it helps be able to connect with the people that make the stuff.
I would much rather play an in-person game than an online game. I find it to be so much more fun to be around the table. I also get up and walk around the table as I'm, describing what's happening. I get very physical. I get, I can do a lot of faces and voices and that kind of thing. And I feel much more animated. When I'm sitting here and I'm trying to do all those, it doesn't really work. So, and that's just me. So I'd much rather be in the real world with real people around a table, but that's just not possible right now. But I do really look forward to being back. It's going to be awesome.
You're big into terrain too. You like You like Dwarven Forge.
Bring the whole Dwarven Forge thing. I bring
Yeah.
maps. I bring props. I bring fun stuff for people to play with in the real world. In fact, Bear and I were talking about how cool would it be to bring an actual real life puzzle that inside has the key to whatever it is that you're doing in the adventure, and you literally just put that on the table and say that's what you guys find in the pocket of the giant, or the treasure chest or whatever, and that's your clue. I'll be hanging out here having a drink until you guys figure that out. And if you want any clues, you're going to need to roll some checks on your character or something like that, and actually let the players and as a group figure it out in real life. I think that's really fun. I did a scavenger hunt one year at North Texas, which was really cool because it was just conducive to that sort of a thing. So I went around to people at the con who I knew and gave them little pieces of paper that were role-playing clues for my players. And they were very specific people at the con. So the guy who was head of security, I gave him a thing and it said, my players might come to you and ask you questions. Here's what you should say to them, or just give them this note. And I gave another note to one of our friends at Frog God Games. I gave another note to the gals who were doing all of the orders for drinks and food and stuff like that. And they all took on a role, if you will. And then during the adventure, during the whole like gathering information part, I was playing the role of the person giving them the quest, and I said, none of this information that we've talked about you can get from this room. We're going to meet back here in 24 hours, and you need to go and find these people. And all my players were like going, but we're here. We like, and I said, just out of character, I was like, they're somewhere in the hotel. And then they were like, oh, and I said, yeah, I'll be here. And they all went off, and I said, you have a half hour. And in a half hour, it'll have been 24 hours in game time. And they went off and they all did this cool scavenger hunt. And some of them succeeded, some of them failed, but they all took on, hey, we'll go talk to the wenches in the bar. And that happened to be the gals who were doing the serving and stuff at the con.
Sure, they love being called wenches.
Well, actually, they wear a shirt that says wench, this the bar wench and stuff like that then. At the con. Yeah, so they're super proud of it. And I said the captain of the guard is going to have other information about this. So that was the head of security. So it was really interesting the way that played out, because we did it 3 times at that con, and every single time certain people didn't get talked to, so that changed the rest of the quest because they didn't have that information.
I feel like this is just a way to DM without DMing. You just send your players, they show up to your table, people. you hand them like the clues, and then they send them away, and then you go to the bar and drink instead of running your game.
Yeah, it was very, because what I did was at a certain point I went downstairs and just watched them as they were on their way around, and they started connecting with each other and going, okay, so I figured out this part, and they gave me this clue, and then they were trying to decipher that, and I was just like, this is so cool. I was watching my minions run around and get the clues from the city that we were in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had fun with it, but definitely I much prefer playing in person than online, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. Like, since we started Nerd Arcade, I've done a bunch of both. But there's no substitution for your home game. And also, even if you are someone who streams games outwardly, you should definitely still have home games. I play with a group that most of them don't play privately. They're all like all their games are streamed. And then that's their one unstreamed game, and they hadn't been really doing that. So I think you're just missing a big part of the hobby if you don't take some time to enjoy it. And you're not you don't have to be on all the time.
Yeah, if you can just get together with some buddies and hang out and just have a good time. I'm really looking forward to that, when we can have all of our employees back in the office and we can just have a regular game that we get together and we run through the Lost Mine of Phandelver together or something like that. Just something fun and little, and keep it small and sandboxy, just to keep to keep the blade sharp, if you know what I mean. Because
Yeah.
after a year of not going to cons and stuff, there were definitely moments in the stream last week where I was just like, okay, I totally forgot how that spell worked, or little things where I should have known, but you know it had been 12 months since I had actually run a game in with real people. So
We forget things all the time anyway. Like for some, like, or just get something wrong and it's stuck that way. Like I had this idea in my head that you could just do subdual damage whenever you want it in 5e, which is not actually true. The actual rule is you can do subdual damage to knock something out anytime you make a melee attack. Other
okay,
than that, you cannot. And
yeah.
there's always little things like that. That like I just remember a rule wrong and it becomes the rule in my head.
Yeah. Well, like I said before, I can't wait to get together with people, actual people in real life. Uh, I, who knows what's going to happen this year? GameholeCon might be on. And if it is, we're definitely getting together, and we're definitely going to that one restaurant we went to.
Yeah.
They had, what was that really? Was it a
The one where
mead?
they stuck us in the hole?
No, that one was good. I liked
Uh,
that one, but the other one, we didn't have. It was just the four of us, you, me, Andrew, and Megan. We
yeah.
went to that one place. This was in Madison, Wisconsin, and it was freezing out, but we found this really great pub or whatever it was. Excellent food, but then they served us, I think it was warm mead, and we were just all skull, and it was
Oh, was
this
that the
big
one?
old.
There was something when it would happen, and then the whole place would go crazy.
Maybe I don't remember, but anyway, it was a good time. I can't wait
it
to
all
actually get
blurs
back together.
together.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
But we
late
were
enough
there.
in
It
the
was like
year
a
that we
4-day
might be
event, so we
good.
were going to a lot of different restaurants and stuff, which was great. But we ended up on the other place where they put us in the hole. Basically, it was a bar where they had restaurant and bar. Most of it was bar, but they had booths, and we had too many people for a booth, so they put us in a little private room that had a
Yeah,
little window to the bar,
yeah,
and
yeah. It
so
was
we could
cool.
order drinks and stuff through that little window, and it was super cool. It was just a great
It also
experience. But
reduced the noise, so you could actually
it
have
was very quiet.
conversations. And
It was very quiet in there, but it was a great little spot. And but my the memory I have was, it was starting to snow as we were walking there, and the sidewalks were so like icy and stuff, and I
yeah,
was not prepared. I did not have a jacket for that sort of condition,
yeah.
and I was not prepared to walk a mile through Madison, Wisconsin, while it was snowing
Yeah.
that night. But it was fun. We made it. We survived. It was
We
okay.
did survive. It was a good time. Yeah, Game Hole Con is late enough in the year, maybe. So
Maybe we'll see. We'll see if it's safe. Yeah, we're definitely going to be going. So I want to support the cons whenever we can. So we'll bring all of our dungeon masters and run as many games as possible.
how much Dwarven Forge stuff do you have?
A lot.
It's all right. I don't think your
why?
wife's listening.
Why are you asking me? Why are you asking me? I've got a lot. I've got several of the large black boxes with red with yellow lids from Home Depot
Uh-huh.
of every set. The Actually, I don't have Caverns Deep. I have or the City Builder. I have a lot of the original dungeon, the Dwarvenite dungeon, the Dungeon of Doom, the original Caverns, not Caverns Deep. But I still need to get Caverns Deep, the Wildlands, Hellscape, and the City Builder and Castle Builder. So I have a lot. But yeah,
Yeah.
it makes it so much more fun for me because I'm a very visual person, and I
You gotta
have
you gotta start streaming some of those Nord games and then just write it off.
yeah. But all of it
What is
is
this
R&D.
$10,000 deduction?
It's all R&D. It's all good.
Yeah.
No, literally it is. If you're using it for business purposes, then it totally is. So yeah, it's a fun way to turn a hobby into a business. And definitely recommend some Dwarven Forge if you want to add some three-dimensional stuff to your game. And I'm not sure how many thousands of miniatures and stuff. So, but there's never never enough. You can always get more as long as you have space to put them. It's all good.
Dungeon craft is a very nice economical substitution to Dwarven
Dungeon
Forge.
craft.
Yeah,
Is
so
that
they do like paper craft stuff.
Oh
Ted
yes.
loves
Okay.
using their stuff, and then he'll just like add scatter to it. Uh, it's just nice because as great as Dwarven Forge is, eventually you run out of a place to put it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it definitely takes up some space. Every accessory is gonna have its attributes, and Dwarven Forge is definitely a large, heavy accessory. But you can get away with a small amount if you want a basic set because they're so universal. You can
yeah,
just spin this piece that way, and all of a sudden it becomes a totally different room. There's a lot of thought that goes into their designs, which I really appreciate.
yeah. I think Ted backed their Hellscapes one.
Mhm.
I don't know what it was actually called, but
That one's pretty niche. It was called Hellscape. Yeah, it was pretty niche. It was very neat though. They had like little light plant panels you could put underneath that made the lava glow
glow.
and
Yeah,
flicker and stuff. Though it was a very cool design. I thought very well thought out.
but he
I
he
even
backed it to get like scatter right, so that it could
Yeah,
put out
yeah.
as opposed to the big pieces.
Well, a lot of times you can just get a flat map and just scatter little three-dimensional stuff on top of it, and it becomes um, very interactive all of a sudden. So that's a good way of keeping it pretty minimal. A single map rolled up and then a bunch of little scatter terrain inside of the tube somewhere that you
Yeah,
roll out, drop those things on top, and now your cavern has stalagmites and little pools of water and stuff, which is
yeah. Well, that's kind of how Ted will use the dungeon craft stuff because
mhm.
it's flat paper craft, so it's like super easy to convert, and it's double sided. So like if you're using buildings, it's rooftops on one side, you flip it, and the other side is the interior of the building. Um, and then I think you might even did something with like some kind of riser or something for like the different levels.
The
Uh,
risers are really fun too, because once you incorporate a multi-level thing going on,
yeah,
it really engages the players a bit more. So we've got some of the pieces of, I think it was from their mountain set that we use for caverns and stuff to make caverns have multiple levels, and they're just basically big blocks of Dwarven Forge, 2 inch by 2 inch by 2 inch. So
yeah.
those put together make for some cool uphill climbs or downhill slides and stuff.
Yeah, Brian says, I think there needs to be an incredibly affordable and shoddy terrain product called Cobalt Forge. I don't know if shoddy's a good selling point, though.
Shoddy. Yeah, I think that the main thing whenever designing a product is you got to think, well, would I use this product because I am a gamer, I am in the target market for this, and then would other people use it? And at Nord Games, we always consider the quality and say we're not going to put out a product that is low quality. We want these things to be as high quality as possible for the right price point. And when it comes to like the books that we produce, they have to have the best binding possible. They have to be made of the best materials, sustainably sourced materials, the best quality artwork we can afford to put in there, the best, everything. When it comes to production, there's a lot of different options out there, and we always try to make sure. Brian says cheap and shoddy. We always try to make sure that the value is there. I think that's the best way to describe it. It has to have a good value. It has to do a thing that you find value in.
Now I want someone to do a parody of Weird Al's parody, White and Nerdy, to Cheap and Shoddy.
Cheap and shoddy.
How many
Cheap
levels?
and
How many
shoddy.
levels of parody can you do? You guys have
Yeah.
also ventured into the terrain and mini space as well.
Yeah, so we did a terrain campaign a while back. We did it out of it was a partnership with us and Hearst Arts, and we did it out of a plaster material called Merlin's Magic. Unfortunately, a lot of our backers got it just fine. Some of them didn't. We had to end up sending a lot of replacement packages because our shipper just treated them like soccer balls. And in retrospect, it would have been great to design some sort of a containment for the terrain so that it would have shipped better, but we got better and better over time at shipping it, just more and more bubble wrap essentially. But we're actually working on another set of that terrain specifically that would be injection molded plastic instead of the plaster. Additionally, we've been putting out we did a campaign in October for the Ultimate Bestiary miniatures. So our Ultimate Bestiary books, we're turning those into a miniatures line so that you can get each one of those minis, that represents a specific miniature from the book. And we're excited about that. The STL files got delivered yesterday to all the backers, and we're beginning the process of production, which injection molding molds are made, aluminum molds are made, and then they begin doing the actual plastic and packaging those in blister packs and stuff. So that's moving along, a whole new monster for us. So we're learning a lot. It's been interesting.
And anybody who's been in business for any amount of time, we know what we're learning a lot means.
Yeah, we're learning a lot. It's expensive, essentially. Yeah. It's a lot of time, effort, and energy spent on learning. But then your next one should be better, and the next one after that should be better. But overall, over time, things get smoother and smoother. Additionally, you try to figure out, well, what's the best way to actually format a Kickstarter for this sort of a product. But yeah, that Kickstarter was a pretty big uphill climb for a while. I think that the biggest challenge is that when you want to produce, let's say 30 minis, there's some pretty hard costs to that.
Yeah.
Each mold is about $4,000. And those molds can fit about 6 minis in them. So you figure, okay, we're going to need a certain number of molds for this project. We're going to need to have the R&D to make the sculpts in a 3D environment. We're going to need to produce X number of units for them to be at a reasonable price point. There's a lot that goes into it. A lot more complicated than just making a book, even though that's extremely complicated on its own.
Yeah. They're all each its own thing, and that's like the thing when you go into a business. Even just like making YouTube videos, it seems easy, right? Turn on a camera, record some videos, and put them on YouTube. But it's like that 10-minute video takes closer to an hour or 2 hours to make, and that's not even the stuff that you do in order to maybe have someone see your video.
Yeah. So I think that the live stream format is one of the easiest as far as the fact there's really not a lot of editing involved. Maybe going and changing out the thumbnail and categorizing your video and that kind of stuff. The videos that are the shorter format that are edited and cut together with multiple pieces of media and music and all that stuff, that can definitely be a lot bigger of an undertaking. Even though it's a much smaller video, it may have taken 3 or 4 times as long to prepare for and put together.
So Brian, and I'm curious if you subscribe to any thoughts on crate businesses models or blind boxes in general.
Well, we've contributed to Dungeon Crate, and I think that's a cool product. Puts a lot of new things into people's hands, things that they may have not thought about, little accessories and stuff like that. I don't know about if everything you're going to get is useful for you. Probably not. There might be a few gems in every single box, but I think that the whole idea is just to open up your options for what accessories you might have. Maybe get you a little sampler into a new product from a certain company. But yeah, it was funny. We were actually looking at doing that way back when Dungeon Crate started, and saw that they had already put in a lot of infrastructure into that, and so just became friends with their owner and just supported them, because it didn't make any sense for us to try to compete with them. Instead, just contribute products to them.
Yeah, Wayne's a good dude. We've
Yeah.
talked to him a few times, and our likenesses have actually been put into one of the dungeon crate as dwarves. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah, it's funny. We had thought about doing that as well, um, and we just never did with it. It was really early on into Nerdarchy when we were like milling about for all kinds of different ideas, and then Dungeon Crate came out. And like, they beat us to it. And also, it seems like a lot of work.
Well, and I think that there's a lot of uncertainty because you're trying to coordinate all these different publishers with all their different little accessories all together, and you're trying to do it at a budget.
Yeah.
So let's say that you've got a $25 blind box. To be profitable in that space, I'm pretty sure you have to be at like a $12.50 cost, about half, um, in order to be profitable. And so if that's your goal, all those things in that box that need to have a value to the end user of $25 or more need to cost you $12.50. We're going back into the business side.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone's going to glaze over, but you need to have some, some profitability there if you're going to sustain it, because there's going to be costs in advertising, costs in labor, costs in everything involved, warehousing, that kind of stuff. So I don't know all the numbers. I don't know everything about their business model, but yeah, in order to make it work, you're going to have to get some pretty good pricing from whoever you're getting your items from, and that might be a challenge. Additionally, it might be a challenge to sustain and keep it fresh and new and interesting.
Yeah, there's a few of them to choose from nowadays too. I get, I guess was Loot Crate one of the first ones that do the subscription box? I know that's like kind of probably would put the idea on our radar.
I think that was the genesis of the whole thing. Is just Loot Crate, isn't it? Just sort of nerdy pop culture
Yeah,
stuff.
but now you can get a subscription box for anything.
Yeah, yeah.
There's, I'd even gone as far to look into it. There's a company that kind of like facilitates all the like back end stuff, not actually like fulfilling the box and putting the box together, but like some of the other things like managing subscriptions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they had reached out to us a couple times. But yeah, so you can get a subscription box for pretty much anything.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great way of exposing your products to potentially new customers and stuff. But again, let's say that Nord put out a product to Loot Crate, or Dungeon Crate, or any other crate company. You might have overlap where your customers already have that thing and they're also a subscriber to that crate, so that's kind of a bummer. It's unknown,
Yeah.
but then once you've put each one of your products in there, that for us would have to be a pretty inexpensive product. Um, I mean, all I can think of is and fit in the box. That's the other logistical problem. Has to fit in the box. So how do you, like, what products from Nord would work for something like that? Well, our card decks, obviously, but there's only a certain amount of card decks that we produce, and once all those are in your boxes, where do you go from there? And additionally, a lot of these folks might be people who already have our products because they heard about Dungeon Crate maybe through us. I don't know. So it's a challenge. And then do you expect your publishers to create bespoke product for your crate every month? Like, no, it's not going to work. So I don't know.
It's challenging for sure.
Yeah.
So what's coming down the pike from Nord? Is there anything you can talk about?
Well, so we've had a lot of interesting things going on. So Nord Games is diversifying into being the parent company, if you will, for several child companies. We have Nord Fulfillment Services, which is a subsidiary, if you will, of Nord Games now. We have a board game and card game company specifically that will be coming out with some products hopefully this year. We are going to be having our miniatures and terrain handled by one of the subsidiaries, and this is all still Nord Games LLC, but it's different divisions within this larger company. And we're also going to be expanding our marketplace from where it is now on nordgamesllc.com. We're going to be creating a totally separate entity for the marketplace, which will be a resource for small publishers. It'll be a resource for artists and writers, and to get their stuff exposed, and basically a resource for the community in general is what we're creating. That will also have a marketplace where the end users, the customers, can buy product from independent companies and smaller publishers and stuff. So Nerdarchy is going to be on there, and as will Loresmith and Kobold Press and Bard Games. So anybody who we deal directly with, where we do warehousing and fulfillment for daily orders and Kickstarters and stuff, they will, if they want to be, they'll be available on that marketplace. So yeah, exciting stuff. We had wanted to do this in 2020, but we all know how 2020 went. Yeah. And so we're getting ready to really launch each one of these different, like I said, sort of child companies from Nord Games. Nord Games is going to focus on the role-playing game side of things, and each one of these other little subsidiaries will focus on a different thing. So we've got a board game company, a miniatures company, a fulfillment company, a marketplace. All these different things will be popping up as they're released.
You guys haven't made any board games yet, have you?
Well, we have had a couple of little card games under our belt. Steampunk Time Machine was one. We're going to be coming out with a second edition of that, just revised and in a larger format. We're working on a game we're very excited about that is it's a wink and a nod to role-playing games, but it is a standalone card game with dice and stuff like that is sort of a good warm-up when everyone's getting ready to play D&D, but not everyone's there yet, that kind of thing. So we also have some fun, like kiddie sort of dungeon crawl games planned and stuff. So as well as games that are completely unrelated to role-playing games, and that is more in the traditional board game space, something that you would pick up at a Target or something like that.
Oh, so final thoughts before we head on out?
Final thoughts. I can't wait to get back to conventions and start playing games in person. That's really what I'm looking forward to more than anything in the near future. Obviously that, and anything that we're working on in-house. Dangerous Destinations is coming along very nicely. New artwork is coming out for it all the time. We'll be posting an update on that very soon, so everyone can see what we're working on. And the next big role-playing game project that we're working on will have something to do with quest generation, plot hook generation, story generation, that kind of thing. So that's going to be a fun one as well, but not too many details on that one quite yet. Probably May or June launch on that.
Ooh. Well, thanks for popping on with me today, and until next time, everyone, stay nerdy. Also, links are in the description. Take care.